Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today, to get you ready for tomorrow's virtual happy hours and maybe all weekend virtual happy hours, I'm going to show you how to make a martini. There's a lot of variations to a martini. I'm going to show you a very classic recipe, or actually tell you about it, and then I'm going to make my personal favorite way to have a martini. When I think of a martini, typically I'm talking about a gin martini, a London dry gin martini. So London dry gin is going to be something typically made in England. Boodles is what I have now, and it's probably my favorite. It's what Winston Churchill drank, so it was good enough for him. It's good enough for me. Broker's is a good one. Beefeater is what everybody probably thinks of when they think of a London dry gin, and that makes a fantastic martini. So any of those, the three Bs, you're going to be fine. There are a lot of different gins on the market these days. There's pink gin, there's spicy gin, there's citrusy gin, floral gin. I mean, it runs the gamut. Some of them are good. You know, I like some of those other ones. Some of them I had and I don't like them. For instance, Aviation is a big American gin right now, but it has some licorice flavors to it that I really don't enjoy, so I kind of stay away from that. And then you're going to need vermouth. Typically, the vermouth used in martinis is French. It's a dry vermouth. There's sweet vermouth. There's white vermouth or a blanc vermouth, which you could use in a martini, and I've done that before. But typically it's going to be dry. And for the money, Dolin makes the best dry vermouth on the market. I think this bottle is like 18 bucks, maybe cheaper. And it, lasts, well, depending on how many martinis you make. But you can use vermouth in a lot of other cocktails as well. You want to keep vermouth in the fridge. You don't want to put it on your shelf because it's a fortified wine and it will go bad. But if you keep it in the fridge, it'll last for a couple months, month or two. Mine typically, I go through a bottle maybe every other month or so. All right. And it's a stir drink. It's an easy cocktail to make. You don't need like a fancy stirring glass to make that. You can use a mason jar. You can use whatever, but you do need to stir it. You need to dilute it to make sure that you're not just drinking straight gin, unless that's what you want to do. And then really that's not a cocktail if you just use gin. I think talking about Winston Churchill, I think he liked Boodle's gin, and then he just bowed towards France and drank the gin and called it a martini. That's just drinking gin. But anyway, so here's some other things that you may want to get if you're making a martini. So a basic recipe for a classic dry martini, and then I will show you how I do it. The way I do this is I do 3/4 of an ounce of vermouth, okay? And then I do 2.5 ounces of gin. And that will give you a basic dry martini. Okay, so that's 2 ounces. And then 1/2, if you want it a little less gin forward, do 2 ounces to 1 ounce of vermouth. That's a very classic recipe as well, kind of a traditional martini. If you like it really dry, up the gin to 2 3/4 ounces. Go 3/4, 2 3/4, whatever you want. So that is the kind of the classic dry base right there. And then from that point, you can add a lot of stuff, okay? If it's a gin like Hendrick's, you can throw a couple cucumbers in there, stir it up, and garnish with a cucumber. The classic way, the classic recipe is to throw in 1 dash of orange bitters, and you garnish with a lemon peel. You express it over the drink, you drop the lemon peel in there, and that is a classic martini. So it'd be this recipe, 2.5 ounces of gin, 3/4 ounce of dry vermouth, 1 dash of orange bitters, garnished with a lemon peel, and that is a classic martini. Okay? In America, for some reason, the dirty martini, I think it's more with vodka martinis, but you can do it with whatever. If you like a dirty martini, the way I would do a dirty martini is same recipe for the base, but then I would add a 1/4 ounce of the olive brine in there. Okay, that's kind of a regular or a regular dirty martini. If you want a classic dirty martini, you might up that to a 1/2 ounce of olive brine. If you want a filthy martini, throw in 3/4 of an ounce. The thing you have to watch out for with a dirty martini, with getting like way too dirty, is there's a lot of salt in the brine, and it tends to, if you do a real filthy martini, it tends to overpower everything else, and you end up with a very salty olive drink that it's kind of hard to drink, and you don't want to waste good gin on dirty martini. I don't do it. So I would probably stick to 1/4 to 1/2 ounce, and then you garnish with, they say it's bad luck to garnish with an even number of olives or onions. However, Frank Sinatra always garnished his with 2 of whatever he was doing. 1 for him and 1 for the date he was with. So I always garnish with 2 just because of that. Okay? The way I like my martinis is called a Gibson. Okay? Oh, for the dirty martini, do not put the bitters in there. Okay? So bitters, lemon twist, classic. Dirty is vermouth, gin, and olive juice, and an olive garnish. A Gibson, to me, is a real kind of a savory umami type martini. It's not real salty. It doesn't taste like onions, but it has this kind of underlying savory flavor that I really enjoy. So the way that I do it is 2.5 ounces of gin, 3/4 ounce of vermouth, and then I will just take a bar spoon and throw in maybe 1.5 bar spoons of onion brine, which is going to be about 1/8 of an ounce. If you don't have a bar spoon, which is fine, but you do have something that you measure with, it's going to be right under 1/4 ounce of the brine on there. Okay? So that's the way I like it, and that's the way I'm going to make mine today. And then you want to, and since it's mine, I have washed my hands, but I'm the one drinking it, so I will kind of do it this way. Is you want to dilute this and add water to it. Okay? So I stir mine for about 25 seconds or so. You do not want to shake a martini, okay? So, James Bond was wrong, and I love James Bond. But the way he took his martinis, shaken and not stirred, I don't really agree with, because what it does is it tends to dilute it too much because you're breaking up those ice chips in there. Some people do it if you go to a bar and you order a classic gin martini up with a twist, you'll get the the basic recipe. If they stick that in a shaker, tell them you want it stirred. Okay, so it's about 20 seconds or so, and then you want to lovingly and gently, because you don't want any bubbles in there, pour that into your glass. And again, since this is a Gibson, I will take my lovely skull skewers there, and I will drop that in. And what that will do is also, that's why I only add like a bar spoon in there, is that will kind of leach out a little bit into your drink. So let's give it a little taste. I mean, really, you're going to smell gin, and I love the smell of gin, good juniper smell there. That is delicious. That is a great martini. You want to be careful with these because there is no sweetener, no sugar, no citrus. There's nothing else diluting this but a little bit of water that when you stir it with. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I will probably do some variations on the martini in the future because there's the Claridge, which is like Cointreau and apricot liqueur. There's the Vesper, which you add vodka and Coke Americano. So there's a lot of variations you can do. I will probably do some of those, but make a classic gin martini if you've never made one. Start with that and let me know how you liked it. And again, subscribe to my channel if you want to, because I put these out every Thursday, these videos out. And let me know in the comments if you made it, if you liked it, if there's something you want to see. So until then, I will see you later. Cheers.